Gary, cold open question of the week.
Yes, sir.
If you could have any band or artist perform at your birthday party this week, who would it be?
It would be Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Sons. You didn't even have to think about that.
Didn't I? Did.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask that question to our guests tonight. They're two members from the rock band Portland Frank, Chad Wescott and Marty Monahan. Chad, who's playing at your birthday party this week?
This is an easy one. I'm going to pick the band Clutch. They're my all-time favorite band. They're a blast to see every time. They could play the same set list every time I see them. Well, I wouldn't want that, but I would still enjoy it every time. Yeah, for my birthday, I'd pick my favorite bands.
Clutch. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a clutch answer.
Yeah.
Marty, how about you?
I think I would have to go with Wolfgang Van Halen, who just dropped a phenomenal follow-up album. It was debut Mammoth, called Mammoth 2, who is Eddie Van Halen's son. It's phenomenal. I'm surprised Chad didn't say that, honestly. I thought he really thought highly of that album, so I'm a little taken aback that he wouldn't say that.
Well, he is a giant Clutch fan, so it's understandable.
That's true. Yeah, it's my birthday.
I expect it. Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to ruin your birthday.
Seems like it would be a good party to go to.
I would pick Clutch for your birthday too. It makes you feel any better.
Thanks.
All right, well, let's start this party. It's the episode 59, the one about Portland Frank with Chad Wescott and Marty Monahan. All right, so welcome into another episode of the Brian Lennon Show here on Substack. I am your host, Brian Lennon, as always, joined by my co-host and producer, Gary McDaniel. We had a little technical difficulties opening the curtain here. We had some issues with our theme music, so we had to do the cold open question a second time, and it is what it is.
You just broke the fourth wall, man.
All right. Well, tonight they won't know whether to believe this or not.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight I am joined by two members of the rock band from Northeast Pennsylvania, Portland Frank. They are Chad Wescott, who is Chad. I was debating: are you the drummer or are you percussion, or drums and percussion?
Right now, just drummer, but we'll say percussion.
Okay.
You did play a shaker in the studio.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
You could put both on there on your cover sheet.
Yeah,
we'll update that LinkedIn.
Some
profile.
auxiliary. Yeah.
The IMDb.
And Marty Monahan is are you rhythm guitarist?
Paul and I kind of switch off depending on how hard the song is. He plays the hardest stuff, but yeah, no, guitar. Yeah, I share that responsibility with Mr. Paul Young, the principal songwriter, and do some.
So the other two members
here and there.
Right, the other two members of Portland Frank who are not on the show are Paul Young, who plays guitar and vocals, as well as Johnny Jones, who is the lead vocalist and bass guitarist.
J. Money Jones, as we call him.
J. Money Jones. All right, so I wanted to have you guys on because this Friday, August 11th, at the V Spot, you guys will be playing a show.
We will be.
Now, are you guys the headliners for the show? Because I think there's some supporting acts as well, correct?
Our name is biggest on the poster.
Then you're the headliner.
I like to think of it as like a shared kind of thing. We booked it, so yeah, we're the headliner, I guess.
Now, as someone who will be attending, what time are you guys going on?
Oh boy, 11 maybe. I think maybe 11:30 perhaps. I believe music starts at 9:30.
Oh, 9:30. Okay, yeah, because each band will do first two bands. I believe are doing 45 minutes to an hour ish, and then obviously transition times in between. So I would say 11:30 latest, preferably closer to
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, we'll see.
But I'm not. Yeah, I don't. I was thinking music started at 9, so I guess we'll have to
Yeah,
find out for
typically
sure.
that is, but Paul, I think, told them to start at 9:30, just preemptively before we even get there.
He's
So,
big time.
yeah, you know how he is.
All right. So, I wanted to have you guys on. I've seen you guys play, I think 3 times now. I've seen you once at the V Spot, once at the River Street Jazz Cafe down in Wilkes-Barre, and then once at Ravello's. So, just kind of a basic question for people listening: how did the band come together? Like, what was the impetus to come together with the other two guys?
You want me to take this, Marty?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
So I believe so. Paul and Johnny have been at it a lot longer than Marty and I have. And I know Paul's been in a lot of different bands, different original bands. He's just a tremendous writer. Both him and Johnny, they both are. But I know Paul's had like a catalog of just like song ideas he's wanted to somehow bring to fruition for a long time. And I think just in the last year, well, now probably 2 years ago when he first started getting the ball rolling, like getting Johnny on board, he wanted to put a group together to start like putting these ideas like into actual music. So it was just those two that wanted to get something started, and then he came to I was actually filling in a gig with the Holtzman Effect, one of the bands opening for us this Friday, and are playing with us, I should say. And he came to that show and he saw me play, and something I did, I guess he enjoyed. So he messaged me the next day on Facebook and asked if I'd be interested in an original project, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I've wanted to be a part of some original project. Like the Boastables, we had some original stuff when I still played there with Marty, and like I didn't like we didn't tap into it enough, unfortunately. But it's something I always wanted to do. So yeah, I mean, it didn't really take much like selling for me, like especially coming from Paul. I'm just like, I'm sure this is good. Like, sure, I'm in. Um, so then we kind of got together for, I want to say is 4 or 5 months. We get together maybe once, twice a week, just go down to Paul's house, jam, write stuff. It was a long time before we played any gigs. And yeah, and then
How long have you guys
eventually
been together now?
a while now, probably at least a year.
Okay.
And yeah, it was probably a couple months before we kind of decided like, hey, like what if we brought in some more firepower, like another guitar player, somebody with ripping vocals, maybe somebody like that
Long
knows
blonde
all of
hair.
us, that's like younger and handsome. So it's like, I guess Marty. So
So
no.
Marty,
After the
how
first three
did
guys said no.
so Marty, how did you get involved and pulled in?
Yeah. So I have known Paul now for probably almost 5 years, I want to say. Similar to Chad, I did a fill-in gig with another band that Paul was also filling in for. And Paul had known of mine and Chad's band, the Boastfuls, a little bit. Heard some of our stuff. Heard us play before. So I had a couple gigs there when I was playing with Paul. He kind of, I would say, took me under his wing for quite a bit as a songwriter and as a guitarist. I learned a lot from him. He helped me and Chad, write some of the Boastfuls tunes when we were putting out music. But I think at the time when Chad, Johnny, and Paul had been jamming together for a few months at this point, I was working 2 jobs, trying to finish up school and everything. So I just kind of had a lot on my plate. So I was getting a text every week from Paul or Chad for like months.
It took some
Literally
convincing, and
months.
I'm like, I know I couldn't twist her arm, but I'm like, once I do, I'm like, he's not gonna regret it.
And no, it wasn't even that I didn't want to do it. It was, I told them both,
Yeah.
it's like I literally just I physically don't have the time to do it. I was working some days from 4 a.m. until 7 o'clock at night, playing out once, twice a week. Either with myself or with other bands. Yeah, right. The world's smallest violin. It's Chad's playing over there. So I just didn't have the time, and then I got a new job that opened up my weekends. I'm working 4 days a week now. I'm out at 5 every day, so it's now that I have a more consistent schedule. It was an easy yes. I mean, I wanted to do it. It was just a matter of being able to commit to it. I didn't want to say yes and not be able to fully commit because I knew it was important to Paul, Johnny, and Chad. So.
Cool. Now that's one of the interesting things when I first saw the band was Johnny and Paul are a little bit older than you. I think I know Johnny's probably in his mid-40s, or Paul is in his mid-40s. I'm not sure how old Johnny is.
Yeah, I think they're both
close,
43 or 44. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are younger, both in your 20s still.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that, because that's not, the usual dynamic or setup of, a band, but just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
like maybe what you guys bring to the band from the younger side, and, obviously what you've already talked a little bit about what they bring as songwriters and, more mature artists.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Paul and Johnny, like Chad said, I mean, both were in really successful bands, in the area. So and we're going back 10, 15, 20 years ago. They were doing that, where they're playing the 600 people on a Tuesday night, and that was every week for them, traveling and doing all that fun stuff. So Chad and I, when we were doing the Boastfuls, had a very, very small taste of that, where we would play to 30 people on a Thursday night, maybe.
You also played some bigger shows though in New York, right?
We did,
yeah.
I shouldn't say it was, garbage time. It wasn't. We did have some good shows, but so the thing is, for Paul and Johnny, they're long past the point of like, I need to commit to this 100%, and I need this to work out and all that. I mean, Chad and I were never at that place. It was never something like, we're going to tour the world and we're going to quit our jobs. It would take a lot for us to do that. Paul and Johnny were both kind of in a situation like that at one point where Paul absolutely could have quit his job, and done it full time, and they could have really went somewhere. But the good thing about them kind of being through that now is that this is purely, I'm writing about, things I want to be writing about, and I'm writing because I want to write, not because I need to be putting out music. Whereas, I think I could speak for Chad and myself, where when we were doing it, it was very much so, as much as we loved doing it, it was more so like we were like setting deadlines for ourselves and like making a point to try to get music out, and it felt very different. So I know for me, it's a really nice change of pace. It's, it's not stressful at all, other than Paul watching every little thing I do, which is terrifying. But it's nice because they kind of already have that experience, and they know what it's like to really give everything to do it. Which is, now we don't have to. It's kind of nice.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's purely because we want to be there, which, is the most important thing.
Right. It probably makes it a lot more fun too for you guys to be together.
Oh, God, yeah.
Do that.
Yeah.
Now, I know, just talking a little bit to Chad, how with practices and stuff, there is a certain standard, I think, that maybe Paul brings to the band, and just listening to you guys. And again, I'm no great musician or anything, but you guys are tight, like, because you guys aren't really playing out much, but I know you're practicing a lot.
Every
week. When you play
yeah.
out, you're very tight. So maybe Chad, talk a little bit about that as far as like the preparation that's going into, a show like Friday night.
So when you say that Paul brings a standard, you really hit the nail on the head. Which is, it's fun. Like, I enjoy, because yes, Paul holds himself and the rest of us to a very high standard, and he's not afraid to tell you like you suck, or like or like you're dragging ass or whatever. Like, he's not afraid to tell you that, and I actually like it because he's the nicest guy in the world, but he's also real. And Yeah, and a lot of that comes from, I think it's just how he's his nature, and also just like, yeah, the experience he has like writing music and being part of different styles of music and everything. Like he's so well versed that like, yeah, that definitely helps. That has a lot to do with why he's a perfectionist. That has a lot to do with why
Yeah.
like if we do sound tight, I mean, as much like, I don't know, if it we'll probably be the last to admit like, oh, like we sound really good because I mean, Paul's gonna pick something out. I'm gonna pick a million things out about
Yeah,
what I did. Marty's gonna pick things like,
we all will.
but yeah, if it does seem like if the practice is showing, then that's great. And yeah, a lot of that is to Paul's perfectionism, honestly, which yeah, I'm thankful for, because I know like
Yeah.
he'll be the one to kind of light the fire under our ass, like, hey, like let's practice this week, let's pick a day next week. Oh, we can't do this, let's do 2 days next week. Like I want to get this many practices in before this gig or whatever. And it's like I'm thankful for that, because that's not how I am. I'm much more the opposite. I think it's just part of just being a young, like just pushing stuff off or just getting lazy and everything. And that's the opposite of Paul. So like he whips me into shape, he whips Marty into shape. And I honestly, it's definitely made me a better musician. I'm sure I can speak
Oh
for you
God,
as
yeah.
well, Marty.
God, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He, I mean, like Chad said, he's a perfectionist. But and again, like Chad said, the biggest thing is that he's very objective when it comes to this stuff. So nothing he ever says to hurt anyone's feelings or anything like that. It's purely for the sake of, is this the best we could sound? Is this the best we could do? I think the second time I played with Paul, I was filling in with this band. I was drumming for them. It was the first time I got to play with Paul in a full band setting, not like acoustic. And like the whole night, I was like, this is going really well. Like I'm having a really good time. Like I think we sound really tight. And at the end of the night, Paul and I were talking, and I had only known him for a couple months at this point. I was like, yeah, that was a really fun time. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you should learn the songs for the next time we play together. That way you'll actually play them right. And I was like, oh, but that's how he is. But the thing is, you could either take that and be totally put off by it and be offended by it. And the biggest thing is you take that to heart in the best way you can, because coming from someone like that, it's for the sake of seeing you do better and be a better musician. So it's if you could make that distinction of, he's not just being a dick, like he wants you to be better. He wants you to be better.
Yeah, he does not he does not just say something to say it.
No, not at all. No, and that's the thing I appreciate most about him. It's because it really that is the reason we're as tight as we are. As much as I might want to kill him during practice, it's worth it. Like it is.
And it's funny too, because like he'll and I mean, Johnny holds himself to a very, very high standard as well.
Oh God,
he's a lot quieter about it. And he's not really the type to kind of be the one to tell you like, hey, that solo you played was dog shit. Like Paul will do that. Johnny would never do that to somebody else. He'll say it about himself. We all say it about ourselves, but it's funny, especially like for the both of them, like how they hold themselves to this high standard. And it's like they have so much less to prove to everybody. But Paul's the one that's like, we can't mess this up. We can't mess this up. We can't mess this up. It's just like, obviously I don't want to mess it up either, but it's just like, or what? Like Paul, like
what'll happen?
Like, yeah, you're going to play the guitar better than most people can play the guitar. You write songs like better than a lot of people do. And it's just like, but he's still so like, no, this has to be perfect. No, I don't like that. No, we gotta nail this. We can't mess this up. It's just, yeah. And it's, I'm not that, well, yeah, I'm my own worst critic for sure. But yeah, Paul being the way he is has done wonders for me as a musician. And just, yeah, for the band, this band kind of being like his kind of like brainchild, if you will, it shows a lot of his like perfectionism and what he really, really like wants his music to sound like, and like what he wants something that he's part of to look like, sound like. So it's
speaking
fun.
of what you guys sound like, Gary has a question for you.
I do.
Because Gary's never heard you, obviously. Well, he's heard some of your songs, but
I have a couple
he has a question for you.
So,
Okay.
so one is, describe your sound. Like what do you guys
rock? Yeah, it just I don't know. It's not hard rock. It's not soft rock. It's just honestly, it's just rock music that you don't really hear much in like 2023.
Yeah, I would put it very in line with like kind of earlier Foo Fighters stuff.
Okay.
It's kind of riffy,
Yeah.
but you know.
So I listened. So I listened to the two songs I found on Spotify.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed them, and that was what I thought too. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like that Foo Fighter-ish type of play. I was like, I really enjoyed it. So that falls into my next question: is where could people find more of your music? I mean, I'd only listened to those two, and I was like, man, I wish there was more. I was ready to listen to more, and I was like, damn it, I'm like, there's only two of them here.
Yeah, we're work in progress. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
We finished up in the studio 2 weeks now ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, recording 4 more. The guy we've been recording with, Brett Alexander, who, again, if you want to talk about, you know, prestigious musicians in our area, like he's it, like he is the guy. He's
we'll
been recording.
We'll talk about him because I have questions
He's coming.
about that as well.
Don't you? Yeah. He's mixing. He's mixing and mastering. He's just had a really crazy schedule the last few weeks, so we're waiting to get some mixes back from him that we can put out. So probably in the next month or so, I would say more will be coming out.
And that's Spotify again, or
you guys anywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever DistroKid gets it, really,
wherever he gets them.
And for people who are listening or watching on the YouTube page, I will have a link to the Spotify for Portland Frank in the show notes, so you'll be able to listen to their 2 songs. Since you brought up Brett Alexander, let's talk about him a little bit, because he was a member of the Badleys, which was a kind of a popular local band here in Northeast PA. They had a little bit of a national presence back in like 1996. And Brett Alexander, now was he the lead singer?
No, Brett was pretty much the primary songwriter of the band. There were a couple songs he sang lead on, but I forget his name.
I don't remember his name either.
It's gonna kill me now. It's on the tip of my tongue. Pete Palladino.
I'll find out.
Is the lead singer.
Oh,
Pete Palladino. I believe is his name. Yeah.
So Brett Alexander was the main songwriter.
I believe so. Yeah.
For the Badleys. Okay.
Yes.
And I remember they had a video out, and I was actually looking at it today. It was directed by Anthony Edwards, who played Dr. Green on ER, and Juliana Margulies was in the video as well. She was kind of the hot commodity back in the day.
I did not
know. You guys may not have even been born, or were probably still in diapers.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they had a song used. NBC used one of their songs for the Olympics one year, I think. They had a song in a movie. Like again, if you talk about like, you know, really, you know, bands to make it out of this area that, you know, really did well for themselves, the Badleys are definitely one of them.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the songwriting kind of experience. I know you mentioned Paul is probably your main songwriter, but maybe talk a little bit about how the songwriting process has been and what you guys contribute. Because I've always, as a music fan, that's something that's always kind of fascinated me, is like what the band does in the studio and how each part contributes.
Yeah.
Chad.
It's please.
Oh, me? Oh. Yeah, so from the beginning, a lot of it were like anywhere from 40 to 90% of a song that Paul kind of had written or like fleshed out, and we kind of just take it from the top. If he had a whole structure, we listen through it, or even if he just had like 20 seconds of an idea or whatever, and then like him and Johnny would kind of just jam on one part of it, and we'd kind of just like listen to whatever he's got, and then just kind of like play it. Like he'd play it, and like Johnny would play something with it, and like I would play, like we kind of just played something to it. And a lot of time, like you'd be shocked how much like what you initially play along to something like that, like kind of ends up being like the general structure. And it's like it's weird, like because and I've always wondered, like when a lot of musicians get asked like their writing process, how they're not really sure how to answer it. I totally understand because I'm not really sure how to answer it. It's kind of just like, thankfully, like Paul and Johnny, honestly, will have like general ideas like all the time, which helps. And then beyond that, it's kind of just like we kind of just jam on it, and we'll kind of each like make our own like respective parts. Um, obviously there's some like collaboration with like different like melodies or different like vocal parts, or even like Paul's giving me a lot of ideas for like drum parts on changes and stuff. But I don't know, it's kind of just like think of an idea, don't be afraid to explore it. And like that's the other thing too, is Paul's not afraid to explore something because he's just like, let's try it. If it sucks, it sucks. It's like that's something that a lot of people can get like discouraged with themselves like really easily. Like you'll think of an idea and like before you even like give it a chance, you already decide you hate it. And it's like it's tough to do much if you kind of get yourself into like that loop.
Right.
But yeah, so it's kind of been like pretty like easy with these guys. And yeah, and then since we brought Marty on, because Marty's also like Marty can pump out ideas and give really good like he can feed on ideas really, really well. And yeah, obviously I've always wanted to be a part of like writing more music with Marty, and a lot of it's happening now. So that's been really, really fun. And yeah, because I feel like we always like had like the songwriting like capabilities and creativity,
Yeah.
Marty, but
Wrong
like we just
environment.
never
That's
like
all it
just
was.
got the ball rolling. Whereas like
Yeah.
thankfully like Paul and Johnny was kind of a rolling ball, and Paul will not let it
Yeah.
stop.
And we
Paul's
just
just
jump
shoving
on.
it. Yeah, it's like yeah. So
Yeah.
makes it really, really easy, fortunately for us.
Yeah.
And
God,
yeah, as far as like the process, it's kind of just like we get an idea and just kind of jam on it and see where it goes. And sometimes you'll leave one single band practice and have like 90% of it. Sometimes you'll leave a band practice and you'll have like a part or two that you really like, and it's just like, well, next time we'll come back to it. And then or sometimes you'll leave practice, you'll think you had 90%, you come back, you'll change most of it. Like yeah, it's kind of just jamming on an idea, not being afraid to try something out. Thankfully they just have a lot of really good ideas. So
yeah, they do a lot of the heavy lifting.
yeah,
we just show up and noodle.
I just played drum, one of the same 4 or 5 drum parts. That's not true.
Now, another question I have for you guys is like kind of your musical influences, or kind of how you got started in music to begin with. Now, I remember Marty from his high school days because when my son was in 7th grade, 7th and 8th grade, he was in the concert band, like the junior high concert band.
Was he a
And you were
Mid-Valley
probably
Spartan?
What was that?
Was he a Mid-Valley Spartan?
He was till 8th grade.
Oh my God. Okay.
And so I remember you and Justin being in the chorus and in the band.
Yep.
And I always thought you were a drummer. I didn't know you even played guitar.
I was.
Yeah.
No, let me think. Chad and I actually probably started the same way. As far as music goes, he took a little bit more serious, I think, though. I think we both started on piano, actually, as kids, as young kids. I was self-taught. I think Chad took lessons, so he's definitely way better than I am. So yeah, I started piano just because I had one in the house. And then I joined band when I was in 4th grade or whatever, whenever you could start. And I started in percussion and then took up drums when I was in 7th grade because our new band director started a jazz band and we didn't have any drummers. And he basically was like, you have to do it because we don't have anyone else. And it's at 6:30 on Tuesday morning before school. So I'll see you then. So I
That's
played
right, I've heard.
drums. Yeah. So that's how I got my go of it. And then kind of the same thing. I taught myself for the most part. I took drum lessons for I think a month, 2 months. Other than that, I was self-taught. And I did that in a cover band with Justin called Nothing Yet from when I think I was 12 or 13 when the band started up until I was 20, which is when we started the Boastfuls. And at that point, I had been playing guitar for about 3 years. Not like seriously, but like got one for my 16th birthday and just had one, and then got really sick of playing drums and kind of doing that thing. So went with guitar, and now somehow I've ended up here. So it worked out.
You mentioned, yeah, it's working out. Now you mentioned you had the piano at home. Are your parents musicians, grandparents?
So my mom comes from a pretty big musical family. All of my uncles were musicians. Both my aunts played piano and woodwind instruments. My mom played piano and was a singer. My sister plays flute and guitar and piano. So it was never like one of those things. I was never forced to do it, but it was just I was around it so much, and that's just what I wanted to be a part of. And then I went to my dad's house and played baseball and video games. So I got both. But yeah, it was just I was just always exposed to it. And it was always a choice, even drum lessons was, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to, I don't care. That's why I only did it for a month as a teenager. Teenagers don't want to do lessons.
Anything.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything they're told.
Exactly.
And then
yeah.
What about you, Chad? Your kind of origin stories with music.
Yeah, I started on piano. My grandma was a teacher. She actually I just like recently learned she had way more students than I ever knew, because she had been doing it for a really, really long time. And I mean, yeah, she taught like a lot of people around like our area, like up in Susquehanna County. And yeah, she started teaching my brother when he was like 9 or 10. And I think she had planned on like having me try it out, because they weren't really like into sports. Like they wanted only my brother and I to like do music, and that was mostly it. So I know she was gonna start me on it at some point, and then like I was like 6, maybe 7 years old, and I was like, well, if he could do it, I could do it. Like I want to play piano. So like eventually she's just like, all right, fine. So she started teaching me. Yeah, I was maybe 7. I think I took lessons from her for a year or two, and then she kind of like talked to my dad and was like, I think you should like find them like a good teacher. And we learned from a guy named Ray Kramer in Dalton, who has since passed, rest in peace. Incredible pianist, very, very good teacher for as ADHD as I was as a kid. Like couldn't sit still, like just somehow managed to get me to play a lot of like classical music. It took me a while to learn stuff, but yeah, I did that for until I was 13. And as Marty mentioned, like becoming a teenager, you don't want to do anything that you're, like you said, being told to do. That's also one is like by that I always played sports too growing up. So like it was always just a balance of like wanting to practice, not wanting to practice, going to like, and then by like teenager, you're like having basketball practice or baseball practice after school every day, and then come home, and then I had to do schoolwork, and then I was supposed to practice piano, and then it was like a big. So eventually I stopped. I think I was like 13, but I played piano for a really, really long time. I don't regret stopping. I wish I retained a lot of this stuff, because it would be nice to still like have a second instrument that I could reliably play. But yeah, and then that was mostly all I did. I didn't even start playing drums until I was like 18, when I got my first job and bought my first kit, because just how much it was like pulling teeth for my dad to get me to like practice piano. There's no way I was going to convince him to be like, okay, but I do want to play drums. He wasn't going to have that. Yeah. And also just a drum kit in a house is not like, that's probably like the least ideal instrument.
It's the worst instrument.
So
you could have
that wasn't going to help that wasn't going to help my cause either. So I did get an electric kit. I did convince him to get me that. I shouldn't say that. Yeah. I had that for a year or two before I bought my actual kit off my friend. And he was actually, yeah, he was pretty cool with like all right, like it's your money, you can buy it. Try to play when I'm not home, which I was respectful for that with that. Like if I wanted to practice while he's home, like I'd run it by him or whatever. But for the most part, yeah, I got it. I was 18 years old. I would mostly just play when he wasn't home. The first stuff that I would play was I just play along to like almost exclusively Rage Against the Machine because they were just like my favorite band forever. And their stuff's like middle of the road, not crazy hard to learn, but like enough to where like you're learning a lot of different stuff. So yeah, that was mostly I took drum lessons very briefly a couple years later after I've been doing it for a while because I'm like I play drums, but I'm like my technique and like actual like yeah, like, I'm like I play a lot of drums, but I also kind of suck. So I wanted to do lessons for a while. I did for maybe 2 months, and I'm like, yeah, I just like doing what I'm doing. I'll just if I want to get better at different things, I'll just learn it by playing different songs and stuff. And it's
just
but
YouTube
yeah,
it.
yeah, pretty much. Oh yeah. But yeah, just kind of self-taught. I started playing when I was 18. I always knew I could play. My one friend growing up, whose house I was at a lot, he had drums. And just like right away, I think I was maybe like 10 or 11, like the first time I went over and like would just sit behind the kit and like it was like kind of weird, but like I could like play a pretty simple beat like almost right away. And I'm just like, I can kind of naturally do this. So I know I always wanted to. And I always thought I would be like somewhat capable, which I thought like was maybe why I'd maybe convinced my dad. But yeah, eventually when I became a big boy, I got my own kit and then just taught myself and yeah, that's pretty much all there really is. And then just started playing live. And my very first gig was I was in the pit band for my high school's musical. It was the year after I graduated, but they had a lot of like alumni and stuff playing the pit band, and I played the drum kit. And it was all 80s music, like 80s like pop music and stuff like that. And it didn't go bad. We practiced a ton leading up to it because I had just started my first band then. And the three of us in that band were all going to be part of the pit band. So all of our band practices just became practicing that stuff. And I was so nervous that I played all 3 nights of the musical with sunglasses on and never took them off. So because I couldn't see anything, and it made me a lot less nervous.
It's like the kid in Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the more I talk to like musicians and listen to them, I think there's like a genetic marker that makes someone musical.
Okay.
And just kind of like all of you mentioned, you had like family members that had musical talent or had a musical background, and it seems to have passed on to you guys.
Yeah, I think part of it. Yeah, part of it too is starting young, I think. And I know like when I took drum lessons, something that I think Chad and I had the same teacher as well. Something that he told me was if you start on the piano, you could go anywhere from there because you're learning like finger independence, you're learning like limb independence, which is huge for drumming. Like, you know, drumming, if you're singing too, it's called 5-way independence. You know, every limb is doing something different. But then you're learning scales, you're learning chords, you're learning everything as a basis. But starting young is the biggest thing. Like I if I start a guitar today, I don't, you know, what am I? I'm going on playing for 8 years now. So I don't think 8 years from now, if I started today, I would be as good as I am right now.
Yeah.
You know, I think part of that is starting when your brain is still developing and is able to kind of retain that stuff a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Now, before we get to news of the weird, Gary has a friend named Paul.
Nice.
And the first time I saw Paul, I thought it was Chad.
So he's really handsome.
He's really good looking.
Dashing.
Yes. So I asked Gary if he would share a picture of Paul with us. So he's going to share on his screen a picture of Paul. And Marty, maybe you're the independent person here to
I'll have to
decide if Paul looks like Chad, Chad looks like Paul.
So the picture I have actually has my friend Paul and Johnny in it as well.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god! Oh, I didn't even think about
This is so tense. Let's see a doppelganger. Oh, okay.
All right, Gary, we don't
Let me
see
see if I
anything.
can pick them out.
Okay, there. Yeah,
I know which guy.
I mean, it's got to be the guy I read. That looks like I know, Chad, you have a big brother. This looks like it could be your bigger brother.
No, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This is
Yeah,
the brother before Jamie.
Actually, he's a little rounder in this picture, but yeah, he has lost a bit of weight since this. I don't even know when this was. We were up at a Gators game. This has to be at least 3 years ago, maybe. So.
yeah, I think he is thinner now than this picture.
Oh yeah, he is definitely.
Which leads him to look more like.
I could definitely. I actually can definitely see that. Yeah.
That's like if Chad,
that's funny.
If Chad was in 8th grade and a band geek, this was his brother that was a senior that played football.
Yes. He was the center.
Yeah.
That's my father, Johnny. Oh. Quite amusing.
Very nice.
All right. I had to get that out of my system because when he was on our podcast very early on, he was like one of our first guests, and I kept wanting to call him Chad because I felt like I was looking at Chad. So, all right, Gary, let's do News of the Weird.
Do it.
And now it's time for News of the Weird with your host, Gary McDaniel. All right, so we're going to go live to the Tampa newsroom. Gary, what's news?
Well, I'm take my glasses off so I can read. I'm reading your story.
See, these guys don't understand, having to, look under your glass and all that stuff. They're still young.
I don't know, man.
So, Florida man arrested for manslaughter after hole-in-one photo ID. A man's 5 minute of fame at a Florida golf course where he hit a hole-in-one and had his picture taken is what allegedly helped officers arrest and charge him in connection with the deadly assault that took place in the course's lot.
Jesus.
Sumter County Sheriff's arrested Robert Moore, 75, of the Villages on July 27th and charged him with aggravated manslaughter on an elderly person in connection with the June 28th incident that took place at the Glenview Country Club, court documents say.
Oh my God.
Dean Zook, 87, allegedly was heading to the club that day with his wife for dinner when his car bumped into another car parked in the lot. A man came out asking what Zook did to his car, and after Zook allegedly took responsibility and asked for insurance information, the other man allegedly punched Zook several times, according to court documents. The victim attempted to put his hands up to protect himself, but was unable to protect himself from the continuing punches, court documents said. The suspect later discovered that his car was not the one struck by Zook, but left the scene. Zook stumbled when police arrived on the scene, and he was rushed to the hospital. He succumbed to his injuries on July 16th, according to court documents. Investigators interviewed several witnesses, looked at credit card and reviewed surveillance footage. It was the photo of him as a hole-in-one participant that got him caught.
Oh my God.
Now, have you guys heard about the Villages?
No.
In Florida? So it's like a kind of a swankier retirement community. And I think it's probably 80% Trump supporters. So it's like a very conservative.
Yeah.
And they're like really big Trump supporters.
Yeah.
So just imagine that, like a retirement community parking lot in Florida. That's probably a very dangerous place to be.
Dangerous place to be.
Let alone when you have a 75-year-old throwing fists,
throwing haymakers.
Yeah,
and throwing darts. Apparently,
Yeah.
that hole in one counts. By the way,
Yeah.
still.
Supposedly, the villages are very high on STDs as well. People like to.
They got to do something, man. They're retired. I mean,
Yeah. Boredom.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Gary, I'm going to call that one a "don't" in one.
Okay. Oh, all right, hold on. Let me give you your. All right, in our second story, I'm moving to Pennsylvania. Enormous Lebanon bologna sandwich unveiled at Pennsylvania Community Fair. The enormous Lebanon bologna sandwich, billed as one of the world's largest, has been unveiled at a central Pennsylvania fair. The 150-foot-long sandwich was created Tuesday night at the Lebanon Area Fair by a large crew of volunteers known as Bologna Society. Lebanon bologna is known for its distinct smoked and tangy flavor. Every foot-long bite was sponsored at $100 per foot. The money was donated to Lebanon County Christian Ministries and their efforts to help people dealing with food insecurity in the Lebanon Valley. That Bologna Society used 600 slices of provolone cheese and 1,200 slices of half-sweetened original Seltzer's Lebanon bologna to create 900 sandwiches, or 6 sandwiches per foot. Fairgoers had a chance to enjoy the sandwich for free Tuesday night. Lebanon is 72 miles northeast of Philadelphia. And let me see if I can pull up a.
Oh, you have a picture of this.
Well, it looks like it was a video, but
every other week we get Lebanon bologna on a potato roll, and I can't eat it. I can't do it.
I have learned that people of the Wilkes-Barre area do actually say the word gabagool.
Really?
And what does that mean?
Capicola.
Gabagool?
Gabagool.
Is that what okay, I've always
gabagool.
I've always heard. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing.
Now, are you guys like a fried onions and bologna on a sandwich, like on a hard roll type of guy?
I can't do bologna anymore.
No,
I think I had it so much as a kid that that's one of those things that I just can't eat anymore. Like when I smell it, it just makes me sick.
Yeah. I don't. I'm trying to think of the last time I even had a bologna sandwich.
You're not missing it. You're not missing much, man.
I think Chad's been eating bologna sandwiches all week. It appears. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a huge bologna guy. Fried onions and bologna, I have not done, but I would. I like fried bologna, which is just like a pan-seared bologna and cheese, but
like a pan-seared, thin-cut hot dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm surprised the guys. It's funny because if I roll up like a piece of bologna, like an Oscar Mayer bologna, to me it tastes like a cold hot dog. But I would never eat a cold hot dog.
I think it's just a pressed hot dog. I've eaten cold hot dogs before.
Yeah, see, that's just
it's just a stick of bologna.
You're a gross guy.
Pull them right out of the pack and just start eating them. Yeah.
Oh,
I feel weird doing it, but I have done
it. That's shake it off before you.
All right, so that was News of the Weird. Before we head out here, just a reminder, the guys here from Portland Frank will be appearing this Friday at the V-Spot in Scranton. They are the headliners. I'm calling you guys the headliners.
Thanks. Somebody
so they'll be hitting stage around 11:30. They also have 2 songs released on Spotify. They are where'd they go? They are Murder in a Small Town and The Last Time. So you can check those out. There will be a link in the show notes for that. But before we go, I have some quick hits for both of you guys. So just a few questions and just give me quick answers. Now, let me ask you guys, because I know you are younger than us. Did you guys buy CDs? Or were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So the first question is, first CD I ever bought.
I don't know if this is the first one I ever bought, but one of the first like ones I bought when I had my own car and I bought CDs in case like my aux cord didn't work was Blood Sugar Sex Magic by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Nice.
Oh, mine was at same deal. It was I definitely had CDs before this. The first one I remember buying was Integrity Blues by Jimmy Eat World.
Okay. The last song I've downloaded.
Ooh, oh boy.
Whatever
Downloaded.
the last song on Mammoth 2 is.
Unfortunately, I stream music. I can see the last song I liked. Oh, I don't like these. um, Oddly enough, it's "Hitchin' a Ride" by Green Day from the album Nimrod. It is a good song.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry.
I think mine was whatever the last track on the new Wolfgang Van Halen album is,
Okay.
which I think is called Better Than You or something like that.
And it's Mammoth 2.
Mammoth 2.
Favorite album of all time?
Oh boy.
Supposed to answer this quick.
I know, right? All right. Origin of Symmetry by Muse.
Muse, okay.
I have to say that.
Right
now. Say it right now.
I can't.
Say Mammoth 2.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
I'll come back to it.
All right, here's one. Favorite music video of all time?
Around My Head, Cage Elephant.
I don't know. Do I know enough music videos? It's been so long. They used to be on TV. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. Back in the day.
I don't know. I'm bad at this. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Favorite concert you've ever attended?
Ooh, Foo Fighters.
Where and when?
Chad, it was like 2018, 2019. It was in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
It was them in the Struts.
PPG Paints Arena where the Penguins play.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was also the Foo Fighters the first time I saw them, though, in Camden with Royal Blood, who are another one of my favorite.
I like Royal
bands.
Blood.
I've
listened to them.
New album. It's coming.
Yeah, it's a coming.
All right. Favorite concert you've ever played?
Ooh. I was just having this conversation not long ago. It's kind of a tie, but one that comes to mind for me was with the Boastfuls, actually, when we played the Coors Light Freeride event up at Montage Mountain. That was so much fun. Because there were a ton of people. It was in the lodge, where the one side room of the lodge where they have the stage built, and I mean, there were hundreds of people in there.
There was probably 1,000 people.
And it was the only show I've ever played with a stage that had pyrotechnics. And that was like the coolest thing that I ever got to be a part of.
And not only that, it was on like a Monday night.
Yeah.
Because I had to leave one of my classes early to make it there to play. That was a really awesome one. I would say I forgot about that. That was a really good time. Yeah, I would say either that or Chad and I did a release show the first time we ever put out music at a venue, Stage West in Scranton. And it was the thing we like fully put it on ourselves. It was for our original music, like advertised it ourselves, and I think we got a little like 350 people there, but it was like for us. So I mean that, like, you know, we were flying high that night.
Nice. Now, question, Chad, did you wear sunglasses?
Oh no. I was beyond. I was past that.
All right. Concert on my bucket list is.
Oh man, I can name a bunch that I'll never be able to see, which is a bummer. But they were on my. I have a list written down. The ones that I will always regret not being able to see are Soundgarden and Audioslave. They were like top 5 on the list.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I mean, I can't say it's as much of a bucket list as it's just like a wish, but yeah, Soundgarden has always been one of my top ones as well.
Yeah, I mean, Wolfgang Van Halen now is definitely on that list.
That's fair.
9 Inch Nails. I'd love to see 9 Inch Nails.
And honestly, Rage Against the Machine was always a bucket list show for me too, but
Yeah.
they just toured not long ago, which I did actually buy tickets for. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
you were supposed to go
we
with
had
me.
tickets.
Yeah. And then that was the whole pandemic ruined
canceled.
everything, canceled everything. And like it was like, oh well, you could get refunded your ticket, or you could get, what was it? You could get like,
It was basically like you could get a rain check and maybe it'll be next year or the year after that, or you could get like 140% of your ticket value
yes,
back.
credited in Ticketmaster or whatever. So we did
Yeah.
that, and then I don't know, because I think they did end up touring, but it was just like
They did. It was almost to the
know,
day
but
the
I'm
next
like,
year.
I don't want to like I do want to see it, but not for like $250. Like
Yeah.
that kind of like
yeah.
Like a back in the day Rage Against the Machine show had to have, like, that's top of my list for sure.
Yeah. That's like the Eagles are doing their last farewell tour for real this time.
Again.
And I know again.
Is that the name of the tour?
It's got it, yeah. And I know tickets are going to be expensive, but they're one of those bands that, like, I think I would regret if I didn't see them before they stopped playing.
All right, 2 more before we head out. If I could collaborate with any musician, singer, songwriter, it would be
Dave Grohl.
Damn it.
Be quicker, Chad.
I would pick
stealing the drummers.
I would pick, even though he scares the living shit out of me, I'd pick Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh yeah.
Why does
I feel
he
like it'd
scare
be
you?
really he like not really nice. I feel like you hate my drumming.
It's funny,
but
though,
like in
like,
a world where he doesn't hate what it is that I'm doing, and that I can keep up with him. Yeah, I feel like it would be really, really, really fun to see how he writes music, because it's so unique, and it'd be fun to like contribute to that.
But he started playing guitar in a polka band for years before he started like writing his own music. Like, just the total
that's why they use
juxtaposition,
weird ass chords and stuff.
Yeah, and like bouncy kind of.
Is he from Northeast PA?
He is from like
from the
desert, like no man's land in like Nevada, I believe.
He just did a podcast on Apple Music that was really good. He talks about that, so you should go listen to that after this one.
The whole desert rock genre is actually a very interesting rabbit hole to go down, and really cool music. Honestly, I've been to a desert rock show. Clutch is kind of like in that circle, and the one show I saw them play, they had 2 like very desert rock bands play with them, and it was very, very cool.
Desert rock. I'll have to check.
Desert rock, yeah.
That's desert is 1S, right?
Yes. Caius, the band Caius, Kyuss. They're like the desert rock band. That was actually where Josh Homme started.
Okay.
Yeah, check that out.
We'll check this out.
Cool stuff, yeah.
And then finally, on a lighter note, when I die, I want blank played at my funeral. What song are they playing?
Oh boy,
when they're rolling you down the.
This is a curveball, but it's a song. It's a song called "The Prayer" by Kid Cudi.
You had this ready. You had an answer.
Look, if this is the one that I actually got, let me have it. Well, you answer. I'm gonna find one of my favorite albums of all time, so I don't leave that.
There you go. Yeah, because I'm really. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Oh my gosh, that's really tough. After hearing that it was Taylor Hawkins' favorite song, I think I would say "Aurora" by Foo Fighters. It's a beautiful song.
Okay.
It's. Yeah. I actually have a funny story now that ties into this. If we have a minute, while Chad picks his favorite album, after Chad left the band The Boastfuls, we had a couple fill-ins, and for one of those gigs, we had to play a celebration of life for one of my friends who passed away. Very, very young from like a really aggressive cancer. It was very sad. And we got asked to play the celebration of life, and it was like his girlfriend who put it on was like, everyone just like wants to have fun. Like, just play what you always play. Like, don't worry about it. Like, it's going to be a good time. And like, we were playing like Rage Against the Machine and Breaking Ben and Foo Fighters and stuff like that. And right before we went on, they did like a 9-minute tribute video to him. That it was Blackbird by Beatles and Daniel by Elton John, and there's like it was in a campground, and there were like 75 people just like sobbing hysterically, and she was like, you guys could start, go ahead. I forget, we opened with like All My Life by Foo Fighters or something like that, and we were like, there's no way we make it through like 3 songs before people were like, can you like not play this kind of stuff? But like everybody there like lost their freaking mind. They like requested like Sober by Tool and like Killing in the Name, and it was glorious.
Yeah, that's neat.
So Killing in the Name, that's my answer. It's Killing in the Name. That's what I want to.
So not Aurora.
Not Aurora. We're gonna go with
I picked Aurora.
I'm gonna cross it.
I picked Aurora as well as mine. I want both.
And favorite album of all time, Chad? Drum roll, please.
Okay, well, that's like, I actually don't think I could pick a single one, but one of my all-time favorite albums that I think says a lot about my musical taste, it is the album "Sailing the Seas of Cheese" by Primus.
Primus. Okay.
Nice. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh,
yeah. I might have to put another little
Primus.
playlist together on Spotify with all the albums and songs mentioned here tonight.
That'll
Chad's
be an
funeral
interesting.
songs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of like all over the place rock music and then a Kid Cudi song.
Desert rock.
We'll put that at the end.
Which, like, honestly, that's basically what I listen to. So,
yeah.
Before we go, you guys want to just give people listening your information, where we can find you, what's coming up?
Yeah, let me get Chad's address.
Put your plugs
Social
in.
Security up here.
Your credit card number and the silly
Your
3
IP
numbers
address.
on the back.
I'm tracking your IP address right now. Yeah, we're you can find us on Facebook, just Portland Frank. We're on Instagram, Portland Frank Music, and then you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all that as Portland Frank. So check it out. It's not so bad.
And anyone who's interested to know what Portland Frank means, since this is a family program, you just go to Urban Dictionary and you can look that up yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun growing up, kids.
Yeah. Well, now you're going to lose all your sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we just demonetize the podcast.
And you guys will be performing live, Portland Frank, along with your other members, John and Paul, this Friday at the V Spot in Scranton. Check it out. There'll be a link to the V Spot's website, as well as a link to the Spotify account for Portland Frank. Guys, thanks for coming on and sharing some time with us and talking music. I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah.
Good to see you guys again.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah,
to see
for
you.
sure.
I miss Chad. Just our talks.
We'll go. Yeah, we'll golf again soon.
Yes. All right. That's going to do it for us tonight on the Brian Lennon Show. I'm your host, Brian. Thanks to our guests, Marty Monahan, Chad Wescott, and my co-host and producer extraordinaire, Gary McDart.
Actually, that's cool.
Peace out.
Should go by that.
McDart.
McDart.